18 months ago, I switched from controller to keyboard and I went from a complete bot to an Unreal Pro. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about why I switched from controller to keyboard and mouse and all of the things I noticed along the way. But before we begin, my name is Prospect and I've done lots of keyboard and mouse progression and keyboard and mouse style videos here on my channel. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure to go and check it out. But let's get straight into why I switched to keyboard and mouse. There's three main reasons why I decided to switch, and that is the skill ceiling, switching to PC, and the binds. And I'll get into each of these three in depth, so let's get straight into it. Up first is probably the most obvious reason that many people switch from controller to keyboard, and that is the skill ceiling. Because it's just a common known fact that the skill ceiling on keyboard is significantly higher than the skill ceiling on controller, and that's just because keyboard has a lot more potential to play because you have a lot more fingers in motion and you have a lot more binds a lot closer together compared to what you have on controller. And that's initially what lured me into playing keyboard, is because I knew by switching, I would eventually become such a better player than I ever would if I stayed on controller. But that was just one of multiple reasons for me. And my next reason isn't really that crazy of a reason, it's more of a convenience thing for me. And that is the fact that I'm eventually going to switch to PC, and I don't want to have multiple inputs the same way that I do on PS5. Because currently, I'm keyboard and mouse on PS5, so I've got to constantly have my keyboard, my mouse, and my controller on so I could hear the game and play the game and all that BS. But when the day comes that I eventually switch to PC, I want it to be very simple. I want to be able to have one input for everything, and that's why I wanted to be on keyboard so I don't have to have my whole PC with a controller connected. It's just kind of a process that I don't want to deal with. Like I said, it's a preference thing. But I think my third and final reason for switching to keyboard is something that a lot of people can relate with and understand, and that is the binds and the overcrowdedness that happens on controller. Because the keyboard has a lot more potential, no, because the keyboard has a lot more buttons than the controller does, but every single season and every single chapter on Fortnite, there's a whole bunch of new mechanics between movement, playing the game, and just everything in general on Fortnite. There's new buttons, new binds, new things to do. For example, how they added mantling and sprinting and all the movement, you know what I'm saying? And I was getting to a point on controller where I had custom binds and I was having a hard time finding a space for every new mechanic, and it was just kind of getting overcrowded. And that was one of my main reasons for why I decided to switch, because when you go to keyboard, you have so many more keys. You can put useless buttons far away, useful buttons close, and there's a lot more freedom when it comes to key binds and being able to put the right mechanics in the right spots. So really, the biggest reasons for me switching from controller to keyboard and mouse is simply that I wanted to become a better player and I wanted the game to be smoother to play. But now that we got my reasons for switching out of the way, I want to talk about the difference that I noticed specifically with these reasons. First up is the skill ceiling. I noticed that, as I had predicted, I became a significantly better player on keyboard than I ever would have on controller. I will put a side-by-side comparison of my best clips on both platforms and let the difference speak for itself. So the skill ceiling is definitely one thing that is huge. You can become so much better. There's so much more potential playing on keyboard. But now let's move on to talk about the overcrowdedness. As I said, I was getting overcrowded on controller. I had too many binds that I knew what to do with, and I was just kind of getting stressed out, you feel me? Because every time I would open my binds, my custom binds, there was just too many things to connect to the buttons and not enough buttons. So now that I'm on keyboard, I feel a lot better because I can put things like auto run on the equal sign or it's far away, you know what I'm saying? I still have a lot more open keys for the new mechanics, and I just think overall it's 110% better. But that's really it, you know what I'm saying? I think if you're considering switching to keyboard and mouse yourself, I would definitely recommend it if you want to become a better player and you want to have a lot more freedom with your keybinds. But I do still recommend controller for like your more average for fun sort of players. But if you do want to improve at the game, get into ranked, hit better clips, and just have overall more freedom, I 150,000% recommend playing keyboard. But that's all I've got for today's video. My name is V Prospect, and I hope you enjoyed. You know what I'm saying? I'll see you in the next one.